Hi, my name is Kevin Mack. I'm Nicetransition on Twitter, and I am starting these web series to provide free education to designers and developers. So each of them are going to be different lengths, but the goal is to get suggestions from people and then to put little videos together, or as I'm working on projects, I'm going to be taking little snippets of it and then sharing them and making them be videos that you can watch and ask questions about. And if I don't answer the questions in the video, you can always hit me up on Twitter. As I said, I'm Nicetransition, and then from there I can make additional videos or respond to your questions directly. So feel free to reach out to me. This first one's really going to be focusing on Bem, which Bem is one of my favorite methodologies for when I'm developing. Since I started learning Bem, it was this way for me to, start having more reusable code. So when I was writing code before I started using Bem, it seemed like every single project I would write some code, next project would come along, and I would try to do it a little bit better. I would take the code and kind of copy and paste it, but it was never really consistent. And then I would always run into some of the issues with naming conventions and also the stylistic approaches of other developers on my project. With Bem, what I ended up doing is, as time progressed and I created a library of reusable components, literally from one project to another project, I was able to reuse that same code. The huge benefits of Bem isn't just the reusability of code, but also again, like how the code that you're writing looks like one person's doing it. It's a very common methodology that exists for front-end development. And outside that, it's a way to connect both your CSS to your HTML. So when you're looking at your HTML, you know how it directly relates to your CSS and how your CSS would look like in the DOM structure. So it's a way to kind of bring in the two core pieces of UI design together for front-end development. So today we'll be actually building out an example using CodePen. So I talk about CodePen a lot, but here's a basic screen of CodePen. And CodePen's free to use. You can just go to codepen.com. Let me type that in there. Whoops. codepen.io, I suppose. And you can create a pen. And what a pen is, it's just a snippet of code that you can work on and share with other people. There's this really cool collaboration mode inside here that two people can be working on the same project at the same time, and it's a great way for you to mentor someone, or if someone's having issues, to dive in there, or if two people want to work on one piece together. So there's a lot of reasons for it, but they also came out with projects recently which are really great. You can actually build a full website inside of CodePen. Highly recommend it. It's a fantastic tool, and that's what we'll be using. Another link I want to bring up just before we get into Bem, so I think it's just bem.com. It may be bem.org. Yep, bem.org. Nope. We'll do a Google search here. Bem.info. So I don't feel like clicking on that deep link. So we're going to go to bem.info, and from here you can see that there's a methodology inside here. It kind of gives you an overview. I've also done a few videos in the past on Bem. So if you want a deeper dive, you can go to YouTube, you can do Kevin Mack, and you can type in Bem. And some of my videos come up on it. I think I have one or two of them. There's one here, but this mind-bending one has about 9,000 plays, and it's all about Bem. But hopefully this video that I make today is all you need to know when dealing with Bem. That's enough chatting. So here we are in CodePen, and I'll also be posting this link in the video description. So if you want to look at this code, you can go and actually examine it, copy and paste it, even reuse it if you want. But what we'll be doing today is building out an interface. We'll be using Vibe. So Vibe is one of my companies. I'm a co-founder, I'm CTO, and what we do is we create offers for retailers to discount alcohol. So we're really the first and safest way for retailers to discount alcohol. We do that by creating the offers with brands, manufacturers, and then embedding them directly inside of retailers, applications, websites, POS systems. Up to this date, we have a enterprise API. We do have a native app that was built in React Native, and we're actually moving away from the React Native, and we're going to be going into a React.js with a PhoneGap wrapper. And with that, we are rewriting the application in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as opposed to React Native. And in today's demo, we'll actually be building out some of this. We'll be using this interface as an example of what we'll be building out. So, as I said, before diving into anything, I'm going to give you a description of really what Bem is. So, Bem, we'll make an H1 here. So the B in Bem stands for block. The E in Bem stands for element. And the M in Bem stands for modifier. Oops. So that's what Bem is. It's an acronym. So block, element, modifier. Now that doesn't really mean much. And again, it is a methodology. And my warning with methodologies are that as you're trying to learn them, it's kind of this like two-step process. So you learn them first, and as you're learning them, you may be kind of confused by what the actual methodology is. So it's this kind of chicken and the egg. You have to know what it is before you can do it, but you have to do it to know what it is. So this is going to kind of cover both aspects of it. And again, I hope it clicks for you at the end of it, but it may take some additional time and learning for you before you actually feel really comfortable utilizing Bem. So, all right, so enough chatting again. So we have this. And I'm going to add some padding on this body down here just so you can see this a little bit clearer. I'm just going to give it 40 pixels. There we go. All right, so Bem, block element modifier. So what it is, it's the syntax for CSS and also your HTML or your DOM structure. So we're going to create an element. We're just going to call it class. We'll call it pizza. Actually, we'll call it box. So we have a class that's called box, and if we have a div, let's just say it's the div box. So it looks like this. So I'm the box class. So here we have this, and it's just a div. And a block is a parent container. So what it does is it contains elements, and elements have specific needs. So think of the block as the outermost piece of a contained group of classes as well as DOM. An element is written like this. It has double underscores next to it. Make this bigger. So here we have element, and it's box double underscore pizza. Pizza in the case of Bem is the actual element. So the full name is box double underscore pizza, but you could really think of it as pizza is the element of box. So if we were to write this inside this, we would have box on the outside, and then inside here we'd have pizza. Say inside here. So right now that doesn't really look like much, but if this is the naming convention of Bem. So we have a block, you call it whatever you want it, and hopefully you're giving it a name that is kind of not semantic, but reusable enough where people know what it is and it's not going to be confusing. So here we have box, and it's just a class box, and then an element has double underscores. That's how you write an element, and elements go inside box. They have a very specific need, and an element must be contained within a block. So elements are always within inside of a block. A modifier is done like this. So we'll take box, we'll say, oops, double dash large. So a modifier is identified as 2 dashes, and the 2 dashes are to help you identify if there's any changes or modifications or any type of maybe overrides for a block. You can also add them into an element, and I wouldn't recommend doing a double modifier. There's better ways of doing that, but ideally they're either on the element, the block, or the element itself. So if it was on the element, it would look like this. Oops. So this would be a vegan pizza. And that's kind of the setup inside here. So what that would look like is if we had it on the top, we'd have box, and we have box double modifier large, and then we could have box pizza, and then inside here we could have pizza vegan. If we wanted to do that, because maybe there's some specific styling associated with pizza, but you don't have to have modifiers for everything. And typically you're using Bem inside of object-oriented CSS, and within object-oriented CSS you have multiple helper classes and utility tools that are helping you identify really what you're building out and what you need to be building out. So that is kind of the base syntax of it. It's really easy to learn. Again, modifiers are double dashes, elements are double underscores, and a block is just its name itself. On its own, this doesn't seem that exciting. That's why I said we're going to build out something and then bring it to life. So here on the right hand side we have the expanded mobile nav for Bibe, and then what it would look like closed. We're going to really just focus on the expanded version of it. And in future recordings, I want to record something on responsive. So now that this is going into a web view, we are actually going to be making sure that it's also responsive. So that's what's going to be really cool about this. It's not just going to be a mobile view. It's also going to have a tablet view, as well as your traditional laptop and desktop sizes. So that's what we'll be building out in the later one. So anyways, to get into the actual coding, I'm using my framework inside here. So I wrote a framework about a few months ago, and it's been an expansion of over the years. It is on my GitHub. I'm actually going to be changing my GitHub name, I think, to Nicetransition, but right now it's Kevin Mack 18. If I do change that, I will update that in the comments. But right now it's Kevin Mack 18, but it may be Nicetransition soon. But inside here we have UI Arc.io. This is my Skinless Ui Library. I'm actually going to be teaching a course on this here in the next couple weeks. That will be a deep dive, but it is a just full of utilities and tools for building out reusable projects, and to have a framework that isn't going to pressure you to design in one way or another. It's supposed to be really flexible to meet the needs of your content. So it's really content focused as opposed to design focused. I'm a hater of Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is one of those tools that kind of forces you down this path of designing or I guess modifying their designs and their UI to fulfill your own needs. What I wanted to do was really build out something that was flexible, that we wouldn't need to be so tied down to the specifics of what someone else's idea of a design was. All right, so we have a lot of stuff in here that I probably shouldn't be sharing. So in my open ones, I actually have two different versions of UI Arc. There's a simplified version of it, which is here, UI Arc.io. But give me one quick second here. I'll dig it up here. All right, cool. Yeah, so I found it right here. This is the simplified version of UIArc.io. And what it is just really the framework itself kind of built in here. And the other one has both a tool for building out your project, and this one's really focused on just the framework itself. So there's some global components inside here, and some brand layer and application. So again, I'll be doing a deeper dive on this in a future recording, and I also have a little demo of it on my CodePen. You should follow me on CodePen. I'm Nicetransition, and I post stuff all the time, but here's the UIArc playground. So you can kind of play with it, and you can see the documents too. Anyways, back to where we were. All right, so go in this view. Here we are going to be building out this guy. So I'm just going to put this. The O stands for object. This is just one of the helper classes. You'll see me also write C, which is component. And it should be, if you see me do U, that's utility, so a helper class. There's O dashes, which are object classes. C dash, which is a component. U dash are utility. And those are pretty much it. There's JS dash, which is for JavaScript, and there's an underscore, which is a hack. But that's what that is. So I'm just going to do that. And inside here, I'm going to be building out kind of my global container. I'm just going to call it C page. And inside C page, I'm going to also have C page nav. So you can see that this is an element of C page. So what this is actually going to be doing is that nav can exist inside of C page. So if there's anything inside of it, but we know that these pieces are related to each other. Inside of C page, what I'm going to also do is, actually I'm going to change this to header, because this will be my header. And then I'm also going to add a C dash header here, because header is going to have its own styles on top of the C page header. And I'll relate these back to the CSS here soon, but what these are just, they're going to have their own use cases and needs. Inside here, we're going to have the UL, and inside here, I'm going to add a class called C header nav. So this is going to be the main navigation, and I'm actually going to call this primary nav, just in case if I have a utility nav. Call out here is I use dashes for my code in between, and the reason why I use dashes in between is so CSS is a dash delimited language, so I just try to keep it consistent to what the language is itself and when I'm building them out. So that's that. All right, so inside here we have this unordered list, and I'll put an li here, and so far this doesn't look like much. I'm just going to put a call out here that says browse offers, and that's going to be an anchor, and I'm just going to put this here. Cool. And we're not going to get too in depth with the styling today. I am going to throw in a few of my classes. So I do have a style guide that has been created for our brand. It does show all the colors here as well as the font sizes that have been created so far. This is a very early stage project. I just have a few hours into it, but the most important things are the names are already built out. So like article header, this is going to be what I use for those. It's actually going to be the scalable one. And those colors are kind of built in there. So let's go here. And I'm going to add a class here and say C article header. So you'll see that kind of change. You should see that change. Not going to be that worried about it. And I'm also going to add in C anchor here. C anchor default. Cool. I do have a reference to my external CSS. Or I thought I did here. Yep, I do. But if those aren't working, I'm going to kind of backtrack. All right, we'll come back to that. It was because I had 2 classes on there. All right, it's like 12:30 right now, so I blame it on that. All right, so here we don't have that much going on. We just have an anchor. We have this browse. Inside here we have these different sections. So what I need to actually do is probably identify like how do I want to break this up inside here. So we have primary nav, and I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to say I'm going to call this C primary nav here. So we have C primary nav, and I like to put the elements in the front and then the other classes afterwards. So here we have C primary nav, and then I'm going to call this main nav, and then we're going to have one inside here that's going to be called utility nav. Oops. And that's going to be its own unordered list. And I'm going to use this helper class to get rid of the bullet points here. Okay. Copy this now. Oops. Put this here. So I just copied that. And this is going to be called login. And what we'll do is we'll add the span description here. Just using a helper class and making this small. All right, so here we have just login this. It doesn't look that exciting. And I'm going to throw in one more piece here. I'll sign up. All right, so inside here we have really this page. So this is going to be where the rest of the page content actually exists. We have a header, so this is a basic header, which is this guy up here. You still have to add in the logo. And then inside of header, we have this primary nav, which is this guy right here. And then inside of primary nav, we have really 2 main navigation pieces, which are this main nav. So in the future, there's going to be more inside here. And then we have these utility. I call these utility because login and sign up are kind of more of a utility piece. I could treat this piece right here, this terms and conditions and privacy policy, as something separate, but I'm actually going to include that in the utility nav itself. And what I'm going to do is say if this is utility nav, utility nav item. We'll also do this, and then we'll say utility nav subnav. And this subnav is just these terms and conditions. And 6. That just stands for utility font size 6. C anchor, which is the anchor class, and then default in this version removes the underlines, and then I can give it other colors and other things, but terms conditions, oops. And we'll do the same here. When building my code, I also want to make sure that, you know, the structures that I have, that if there wasn't CSS loading on here, that the website would render appropriately and look proper to the way that I want it to be. All right, so here we have this nav. We have this bottom piece that we still need to do. The one piece that we're really missing is, the one piece that we're really missing from here, this also right here, is this top piece, and that's going to have the toggle in addition to this. So cool. I do not remember writing any of that text. So inside here we have this page header and all these other pieces. Now again, I want to kind of go back and talk about this. So we have header, which is a part of C page. This should never exist outside of it. It's related to it. I do like to kind of not go too deep when it comes to BEM. So that's why there's C header, and C header, that's identifying these pieces. We could technically have it down one layer, so BEM doesn't have to be a direct descendant. If we really wanted to, for some reason, if we put something like this, C page, primary nav, we could do that and have it broken down that way. I've seen people do this. This is not necessarily the proper way of doing it, but saying that primary nav is inside header, which inside this. That gets a little bit tricky, because then if you move your class around, you're so tied to it. It's probably better to do something more like this. So if it did go outside of it, it doesn't look like that, but you could actually have something like this, primary nav inside here. A lot of times these are always related to more of the positioning side of CSS, and something that a parent would have that the child would then also inherit or couldn't live outside. So for example, if we had position absolute inside of a container and we want it to be off like 50 pixels, we would need the parent to have an relative so it knows off of it. So that top one would have relative, and the inside would be the absolute with the 50 pixels on the top and left. All right, so looking at this, this is kind of a nice structure, and you can see all these pieces and parts. So then how I write my CSS is, and this is actually Sass, but we'll keep it to writing CSS for you guys. Let's see, page header. So we know that this guy is inside there, and then we have C header. And then inside C header, did we have anything else that was this? Nope. Oh, and I remembered what we were going to do. So in C header, we have primary toggle. Be a button. All right, so I'm just getting this guy set up, and I'm gonna say menu toggle. All right, so here we have menu toggle. I don't want to show that, but I still want it to be read by bots, and for accessibility reasons, I have that in there, but it's kind of visually hidden even though it's there. So that's the close button there. And then what we'll actually need is an image here. I'm just going to put an HTTP, hold it, and we'll do a 50 by 50 image. Because I don't feel like cutting that right now. But now we have this primary nav toggle. Oops. We have page header, we have this header here, and we have this primary nav. So again, I want to be thinking about this not just from a mobile standpoint, but then also from how this will look in the desktop. So that's why I'm also writing the code the way that I am, which will be more revealed in a future video. But here, to continue down this path, we have C header, and then we have this primary nav, which is, the primary nav toggle, which is going to be the way that we open and close the navigation here. And this top piece is actually going to be the part of this that sticks on the top of the page. To clean up the UI right now, and because we're not focusing on it, I'm going to hide this piece. Because it's just a distraction in this UI right now. But notice that I use C page primary nav as opposed to the primary nav itself. So again, like I could have primary nav living on its own, it would still be visible there, but this primary nav right here is in the context of this, and I'm working on the rest of it, so I'm just hiding it. All right, so I want I'm going to move this here. No, I want that here. Trying to think of the best way how I would want this to look on desktop. Probably want the nav there. We'll put these guys together. Yeah. Okay, I'm just calling this brand because it has the logo here, but it could be called something a little bit better. If I wasn't so tired, I may come up with something better, but for right now that works. All right, so and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this be a display flex. And those two are next to each other, and I'm also going to say align items center. So now they're vertically centered right there next to each other. And if you notice that, but that's what happened. If I made these maybe a little bit bigger, you could see that. So you see how they're centered? Without that, they were not. Okay. And what I'm going to do is give this a name of C header logo. but then I'm also going to give logo its own style. And typically, what I would like to do is put these inside of their own anchor, because this will also be clickable. And I'm going to give this a class that expands back. Vibe. Logo. Okay. So here we just have an image that's inside here, and it's a C logo, and it's inside. So header itself, it has this, relationship to these two down here, and the logo inside there is going to get some styling that's associated with it being inside the header. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the classic trick of margin auto left, and then auto right, and that will put it in the middle if I didn't have a typo. So here. Now the logo's there, and this guy is over here, and so far this is all set up. At the bottom of this, we're also going to add a border bottom, 2 pixels. I'm just going to say RGBA 0, 0. Zero, 4 maybe. Doesn't really matter that much. Oops, 0.4. And then on this, we are going to add some styling. Which is this. Now we have button over here. We have this primary nav, and then we have this. And I'm going to give this another name, which will be called C menu button. At the bottom of all this, add this. We're going to add some style here. We're going to say border is 0. We're also going to let's see, let's give it a background color of purple for right now. And it's about that. Should make these just the same height for sake right now. Okay. Actually, I'm going to make these bigger. Okay, and we're going to give it a color of white. Now, if I really wanted it to align to the Vibe colors, let me just grab this here. I can use our secondary dark color. Oops, I'm surprised I didn't pass in the RGB. There's that. Oops. Okay. And then what we will also do, actually that doesn't look right. Should be the secondary color. Let me fix that. I'm going to do this as transparent. And then on cPage header, I'm just going to give it one of our background colors. So as you saw, like right here, I have all these helper classes. I'm just going to use the one that I want to use. Which is actually secondary. Alright, so now we have this like nav going. And this, I am going to add some hover colors on this too. And if I'm doing hover, I'm also going to do focus. And it's just going to be a background color of RG. Yay. 0.4. Let's do 0.3. You can see those change. And then what we'll do is also an active one. I'll say the before that's here. Do a transform. Translate. Give it 2 pixels and 2 pixels. Why don't you like it? Give me one moment here. Before not move enough. Well, that is weird that that's not working. There we go. I just needed it was acting as an inline, so my bad. So inline, you can't move those things. So here we go, and now it moves down. It's probably a little bit too much. That's a little junky. That looks better. Okay. And I'm also going to get rid of the outline. Cool. But right now that's not doing much, and this is actually as the X, so I'm going to put this guy there. And again, those are built into my library, so that's how those are being built in, or being called. And I'm going to increase the font size to maybe 40 pixels, so you can see that get bigger. Oops, a little too big. Okay. I'll tweak with that later when this is actually the live version of it, but right here we have this. It's looking good. It's what my navigation should be. But now we just need to show that bottom piece. I do have something here that I was going to show. So again, on my code pen, I do little snippets of code that I always am recording to be shared. There's this toggle one. This is like a real light toggle class type thing. And this doesn't follow accessibility guidelines, but there's no dependencies on it, so that's what makes it really nice. And what I want to do is utilize this. I forget what the class was. It's just JS toggle class. So what this guy does is it adds a class to the header, and it allows you to pass something to the HTML tag. So I will show you what that means in a second here. So if I look here, and we inspect, we look at this guy, and if I click this, you can see foo was added there. If I want to change that to be something else, so instead of foo, pizza, just so you can see this, very noticeable. When I click this, it will be pizza on there. Pizza, pizza. So that's being added. Good. And what I'm going to have this class be is menu open. So it's going to toggle that on the header, and that's what's going to happen. So I'm not going to get too much on the JavaScript side. That'll be for another class. But what I'm going to say is HTML, HTML type selector, menu open. For the time being, I'm just going to say body is going to be background color red, so you can see this kind of come to life, background color red. So you can see that I'm doing that because it's looking at the HTML tag, which has menu body, and so body, when it has menu open on it, it gets red. We're going to do the same thing, and we saw we had primary nav here as none. What we're going to do is when it is open, we are going to say block. So you can see if that works. Now, what we can also do is we've now added this padding here. We don't want that. So we're going to be edge to edge here. And if we wanted to, we could also animate this guy in to kind of make it come to life from one side to another. But for the most part, what we have here is a basic nav, and I'm just going to do some little like housekeeping things on this. So each of these elements, let's say this primary nav, we're also going to add here, so C. And in reality, I want these in here. These are actually part of the anchor. So it's kind of wrong when I did that initially. I do want them in there. And I will explain why here in a second. Okay. I'm going to give these all a class of CNav. Jeez. Can't type. Okay, I think I got them all. Again. Okay, cool. And we'll also do technically these are all the same. So now I'll just call this details. Cool. What we'll also do is primary nav, we'll give it a max width of 360 pixels. Whether or not it likes that, that's what I'm trying to do. We'll come back to that. I actually don't know why that's happening. This is bigger than 360, but anyways, so why I added those kind of space around is for a couple of reasons, but CNav item is going to have padding built into it. So I'm going to do padding left 40 pixels, and then padding right is also going to have 40 pixels. And then CNav details are always going to be color white, no matter what. And these are also going to be a display block. And from the top of these, they are going to have, do the shorthand on this, 10 pixels here, separating them out so there's 20 in between them. And then let's do this actually, so those guys are a little bit closer as they expect to be. And we're just going to space these items by give them some space in between. Cool. And then on the utility nav as well as the primary nav, we're going to give these both a name that's called section. So they can utilize both the same classes here. And then these are going to have their own padding, top 10 pixel, and padding bottom 10 pixels. And then primary nav is going to have a min height, okay. And then we will do this. So now we have these guys built up. I'm actually going to increase this font size. Oh, I forgot, I'm pretty zoomed out here. All right, so I don't think that these have enough spacing in between, but you can always tweak. I can always tweak with that at a later time, but I'm going to add 20 here. Actually, I'm going to add 15 because those are 5. And then the next thing I'm going to do is say cool. Oh, I did have this right. I see why. I do know why it's happening. So this is, you can see that the line is actually going in the right spot. That was as expected, but it's not. It's because the primary nav has the background color associated with it. So let's fix that. Cool. There we go. All right, so lastly, what I'm going to do here is 2 different things. So when menu open, that toggle happens, the menu open before class, it's going to be an X. So you can see that closed now. And that comes in here, which is nice. And then this guy goes here. What we want to do is, instead of C page header being fixed, what I'm going to do is C page, the header, this version of it, page header, is going to be the fixed one. So we can then have this up here. Then we can do other things with the header. Width of 100%. And now what that gives us is not really that much, but if this content was bigger than this, oops, this should scroll. Give me a second here. So we want this guy to scroll here. I don't know, sometimes the CodePen window is also kind of wonky here. Oh, actually, I forgot. We called that brand. That's like the worst name ever. So only brand gets that. Don't know why that's not getting fixed. So now that guy won't move, but these guys will. And then we just want to offset the content inside here. Just is 60 pixels high. So we can give it a padding top of 60 pixels. And we'll see that top guy right there. So this is more space there. It can scroll. And that gets fixed. And then if it's not, it goes up all the way and it can close. And we now know where all these things are. If we make it bigger, you can see that. There's certain things that I also want to do, like in the C page nav details. What I realized is text transform, normal. So other things that why it was done this way is if we wanted to have maybe a modified version of something, we could, like the anchors. Didn't really use any modifiers here, but say there was one that we didn't want them to be blue, we could make a new version of it and then update all of them. The naming here is then these can be used really anywhere. So nav, the structure of this header doesn't have to just live inside a primary nav, but because of all the contextual visual pieces here, it kind of lives inside here. So that's why it's done that way, is to make it be relatable to the structure itself. So you you know that the DOM and the CSS are related to each other, and these are individual pieces that could live on their own. So if I were to, copy this login, and if I put it inside of it, just, here, oops. Take browse offers. Put it here. C page main, and C page main is just going to get the offset of the header too. Alright, so now we can see browse offer and this guy here. The stylistics of it is probably not the best because of the color of this, but if I was thinking of this a little bit better, if it was just on the UDark background, maybe you'd see it. But the idea is that this is really supposed to be separated out and be utilized in different contexts. So I don't know if this is helpful or not, but the important things is like Bem stands for block element modifier, that you have elements inside of blocks, and if you need a modifier, it's a double dash, and elements are double underscore, and then a block is just a class name. So the breakdown of building them out is really elements are inside blocks and those modify, and you have this relationship of the DOM and the CSS, so you know how the two are tied together, and understanding that like an element is inside of a block is really all you need to do. So again, I do have other classes that are online that are about Bem itself, so a deeper dive, but I kind of want to just build out something that I needed to build out tonight anyways and relate it to a topic. at least have it as a discussion point. But I can do a deeper dive and give some various examples, like I talked about the positioning one. If that's something that people are interested in, I could do a shorter video of just that, where this is maybe the longer one, and I brought up a lot of things, but you bring up, if there's something that you want me to bring up that's on the smaller side, I can easily do that. So again, thank you guys. My name's Kevin Mack. I am Nicetransition on Twitter, and I'm going to be doing a lot of these, so let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. Hit me up, and thank you.